Adam, I do not and will not turn on my video today because I didn't think I would be hosting. So no one needs to see me early in the morning. Good morning to you.
That's all right. They don't need to see me, I suppose, either. I'm doing great. Yeah, good morning to you.
Yeah, so
Happy President's Day.
it's a present. Thank you. It's a President's Day here. You know, it's I was saying last week it was one of those holidays for me. I've not been happy with uh, our choice in presidents for years, and I'm talking like years. So, ever since my kids have gone to school, which has been 19 years, I really this is the holiday that sneaks up on me. That like my wife would be like, "Yeah, the kids are home today." I'm like, "What? For what?" It's President's Day. I'm like, "Oh, okay, great." So, for the last literally for 20 years, I just really don't pay attention to this holiday. So it snuck up on me again. And I don't think it snuck up on the markets because everybody's kind of quiet right now. So, what are you looking at? Oh, I don't know if you listened to me, what I had to say a little earlier,
Yeah, I
but
heard you talking about Canadian dollar there. Man, it's good to have you here, Dale. A little, or Dale, Blake. We'll change it up. So nice to chat.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a change up, and I'm Adam. I'm usually listening in when Dale does these face shows. I let him roll and do his thing, but I'm usually have it on in the background before I turn back on CNBC or Bloomberg or whatever I'm listening to for the day. But yeah, I always hear your interviews. But I was really interested to talk to you today because we got Canadian inflation tomorrow. But B, I don't know if you heard what I said. I was listening to some wealth manager that said that there's 900 billion worth of mortgages refinancing in Canada. He's a guy that's out of like Toronto. I forget who he works for RBC or something like that. Anyway, he said 900 billion, and I was thinking, okay, that's a big number for Canada. That's of mortgages they're going to refinance. I haven't done my homework, meaning I haven't like double checked his work, but it was on one of like the macro podcasts, a big one. So what are your thoughts with this year and the Canadian housing market? And do you have any thoughts there?
Yeah, Canada's running into a lot of problems right now, and I think I think I'll start with just a little primer on the Canadian mortgage market and how it's different from America and why there will be a big divergence in the two. It's, 30-year fixed in America, you get a mortgage, 30-year rate is as long, for the whole duration of the mortgage.
Yeah.
Whereas in Canada, everything works on 5-year terms. So the longest mortgage you can really get is 5 years, and you either have a choice of either a variable mortgage during that or a fixed mortgage. But at the end of 5 years, it starts over. So, everyone refinanced during, whatever, if you go back 5 years, I guess that takes us to 2019. But then as the years roll on, you get to 2020, 21. Like I refinanced in 2021 at 184.
Wow.
So, it was like free money, right? I even levered up the house. So
Yeah.
someone's going to give you that kind of money. So what's happening now is these are rolling off for Canada. So there are these variable ones all the time. And of course, like American, when you move, you have to get new ones. But it's also like American that no one's moving who has one. Um,
And
but
it's great for the mortgage business. I tell you, I'd like to be a mortgage broker in Canada.
and what's happening is people can't qualify anymore to get even the mortgage they had. So then they're turning to like alternative lenders, isn't it? Who are,
Ooh.
essentially loan sharks, and you're getting like 10 or 12%.
Oh,
So
geez.
then the discretionary spending just implodes. And so even if the Bank of Canada starts cutting rates now and gets it down to like 3%, a guy like me come 2026 is going to have a higher mortgage. And so you have this headwind coming for Canada that's really just getting going right now. So you have the entire mortgage market rolling over
So
over
Adam,
time.
I don't want I hate to interrupt you here, but I want to just say it's not just you though. Like UK is facing with the same issues. Australia, same issues. Now, to a certain extent, I mean, there are different, obviously, variations from country to country, but this is a big issue moving
I
forward.
mean, to me, it's enormous divergence coming with the US. Canada also has higher nominal house prices than the US and lower incomes,
Yeah.
significant. So everything is about to get sucked into, the home price payment hole, black hole. And yeah, it is the same in the UK. And Australia is very similar to Canada, New Zealand as well. So, 36% of people, only 36% of people have mortgages. Like a large portion of people have homes paid off, massive amounts of home equity as well. And a lot of that home equity is fueled spending, right? Especially for the kind of baby boomer cohort who's long paid off their houses or have small mortgages, bought the houses for, a third of what they're worth now or less.
Yeah.
So there's a few different dynamics, but over time, it's inevitably an enormous headwind. And Canada is also having a very dramatic, I think, debate right now. We'll have an election about immigration. I think the numbers in Canada are like, like half of the US in terms of immigration in a country, like you said, that's, really 1/10 the size. And just huge, huge numbers of people coming into Canada every year. And like the services, really the mood, if you look at the Globe and Mail and national newspapers here every day, it's really the same story that it has to stop. And if you look at Canadian GDP per capita, it's like the worst in the last 5 years of any G7 country. Whereas if you look at nominal GDP, it's grown, but it's all population growth. And
Yeah.
I think that population growth lever is about to just get kneecapped at the same time as housing problems.
Ooh.
And then Canada, if you go back to 25, 30 years ago, was sort of a manufacturing export country at the dawn of NAFTA to US.
Yeah.
That's completely gone. And the other leg that Canada used to stand on was resource extraction. And due to red tape and other policies, that is no longer a growth lever for Canada. So what's really left? I mean, what is Canada selling to the world? Money comes into Canada as a safety trade from China or other places, but that's no way to sustain an economy. So I really think some dark days are ahead.
Yeah,
For the
that's scary. What you outline, and the thing about like you go to your immigration issue, for the United States, for the last 20 years, getting to the United States from different countries was done through and via Canada. So if I was, let's say, of Indian descent and I wanted to eventually make my way into the United States, I would go into Canada because your immigration policies were a lot more lax. I would go into Canada, be a Canadian citizen for however long I needed to, and then apply for U.S. citizenship, and that was my route to get in the United States. And that be so. You think that those immigration policies are set to reverse?
like the charts are just sensational for Canada. One, like just to get into the details, a lot of it was just students. Like, so there was colleges were suddenly allowed to really grant unlimited amounts of like small kind of community colleges, unlimited amounts of temporary residence permits. And that way, especially from a few countries in Southeast Asia, was kind of a backdoor to Canadian immigration. So temporary students went from something like 100,000 a year to 1 million,
Wow,
literally in 5 years.
wow,
And you had these colleges that were like almost 100% people from Southeast Asia. And then they would come and they changed the rules so you could work 40 hours a week. So it was just people coming, signing up for a college, really not even going to class and working.
no
And the
kidding.
whole thing, it was just a house of cards. And it's kind of collapsing in slow motion. To see Trudeau's trying to keep it together because he's extremely pro-immigration, but the tide has very much gone out on it. And then that's going to have like knock-on effects in the employment market, right? Like this was
Yeah.
all low-end employment. And so then maybe you have an inflationary problem out of that, but maybe growth is so bad. I mean, housing certainly needs to be built in Canada. I mean, Arizona is building a lot of houses, but I believe there will be a housing boom in America and construction once rates start coming down, or maybe even without that. But
Yeah, yeah, it is a really interesting dynamic, and it's funny you mentioned Arizona because I live in Arizona,
yeah,
and I can't tell you this time of year how many Canadian license plates I see. Yeah, I live in Scottsdale, over by where the golf tournament's held, and so this time of year it's like all Canadians. Well, not all, but I would say like a big chunk of them. I wonder if that's going to be the case moving forward.
yeah. I mean that sort of cohort is still pretty wealthy. I mean, any Canadian dollar weakness, they get hung up on that.
Yeah.
is a problem, but the price, good weather in retirement. I mean, most retirees are on, solid income. So, maybe for 20 years, I think it probably lasts, and then we'll see if the next generation has anything left.
Yeah, crazy. Well, hey, I'm in the camp that I can't take it with me, so I might as well spend it, right?
Well,
Just kidding, joking. But that's a lot of boomer mentality. Hey, let's talk a little bit about Canada's an interesting dynamic, and I think that when I look around at the issues that are facing, whether it's Canada, Australia, certain parts of Europe, Gear was just talking about Norway is similar. A lot of these countries, expendable income is about ready to get evaporated over the course of the next couple of years. And not saying that it won't happen in the US, because I fear for, some of my nephews, a couple of my nephews didn't buy a house, and they're in their 20s and in their late 20s, and they feel like the American dream is not so achievable anymore. And so we do have obviously the generations that are kind of priced out of the market, but at the same time, you got a lot of people that they'll just sit in a 30-year mortgage as long as they can continue to work and pay it somehow. But let's talk about the rest of the, like interest rates and what you're looking at here, because a lot of people, as and this year we came into 2024, obviously expecting a ton of rate cuts from the Fed. And, the market's kind of repriced. Now the market's looking at maybe 3 to 4 cuts this year. Where do you stand, and what's going to move the needle from here?
Yeah, a lot of it's looking a lot like last year, right? It looks just everyone thought it wouldn't be cuts, and then it didn't happen, and the dollar strengthens, and here we are, kind of like part two, 2023, part two.
Yeah.
And right now is a real rare alignment moment for markets and the Fed, both pricing, the Fed saying 75 basis points, the market's at 89 right now. Which just, you could probably consider that last 15 basis points just tail risks, right? For
Yeah.
market pricing. So, I'm watching the data kind of point by point. And for me, it's kind of what we do, and that's made it a very interesting market. And just the market only seems to care about the last data point right now. And, very excited about CPI, and then not so much about retail sales. And the Fed comes out, we kind of listen to their last words. When I look at the big picture, I don't think it matters that much whether they cut, because if they don't cut, it means the economy's great. And if they do cut, well, now you've got 525 basis points of the Fed put in place. So,
Yeah.
I think the U.S. economy can do well either way. And it's probably more of a factor for the equity market, that scenario. But in FX, yeah, I think a lot of these other countries are going to crack. And if America, I just don't see, I can see America slowing down. It's going to finish the year certainly weaker than Q4 was in 2023. And for that reason, maybe you see some yen strength or dollar yen weakness, I'll put it more clearly, towards the tail end of the year. But for right now, I don't see a lot of places. Europe is really asleep at the switch. I'd be pretty eager to cut rates. I mean, you have a recession in a lot of places in Europe right now. They got through the winter because it was a warm winter, in terms of energy, but you could have another energy shock next winter. Manufacturing in Germany is dying a quick death.
Yeah, it is. It really is. So, I mean, that it sounds like to me, and just reading through your commentary here, or reading behind well, you're basically a dollar bull, and you can't see any reason for the dollar really to slow down much near term.
Yeah, and part of that's just being an America bull. Like I look at the state of capital markets, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you ask somebody to name a technology company from Europe. I mean, does anything even come to mind? Whereas America, you can ream off, 25 without thinking.
Yeah.
And America is just winning really on a lot of fronts. I mean, I think that the sentiment in America is that it's losing a lot, but when you zoom out and you look at it, I don't know, from America's doorstep, American markets are absolutely crushing it. And I am pretty bullish on US house construction. And there's a tailwind from the IRA and chips that will last through the year. I mean, yeah, you could make a bearish political case, but I think there's so much in the pipeline right now that I don't think I want to do that.
Yeah,
And who
interesting.
knows what the future holds, but
Yeah,
American business.
and you make some great you make some great points here, and it's again, it's like, where do you hide? So I'm going to ask you this as we'll wrap up our President's Day show, and I'm going to tell you, Adam, I'm going to get with you personally. I'm going to invite you out onto Trader Summit. Love to bring you on there, and interview you one-on-one with myself when I can actually sit down and think about things for us to talk about versus coming in this morning going, oh crap, Adam's going to be here. Let's talk. But let me ask you this. Looking ahead over the course of the next couple of weeks, where do you think is going to be the best place from a trading perspective? What are you going to be looking at and say, I really am looking to play this on the long side, this on the short side? What are your thoughts right now?
Yeah, I think the game in town right now is China. I think if there's a headline that I'm looking for, it's something out of China, which will be right into the Australian dollar.
Okay.
So either way, you want to trade that. China is at the point right now that it needs to do something. And I'm not sure it's going to happen. So either the bottom falls out or it picks up here. The travel numbers over the holiday week last week were good, up 20%, 19% compared to pre-COVID. So the consumer has some life. Construction is a big problem there, or real estate. Um, I think that there's a big question mark in the global economy this year. It's China, and a lot of knock-ons coming off of that. And so I think otherwise you can kind of trade the data, but if there's something to get me excited, it'll be China and some
Okay.
stimulus. We
Well,
didn't get
and
it
you're,
today,
but
but
it sounds like you still question if they're going to be able to pull it off.
well, I'm starting to think the guy in charge is a communist. Like he
Wait a
he's
second.
a story last week said, the government has 5% of the housing stock. He said he wants to have 30% of the housing stock, some by buying it, maybe out of bankruptcy or sub-market rates, and some by building it. The building part, maybe that's fine, but they don't need 30% more housing with a declining population.
True,
So
true.
you
Yeah. So
presume they're just going to scoop up the wreckage, but that sounds messy.
that
And
it does. All right. Well, okay. So China's one of the places you want to be. Where don't you want to be?
I touched on Europe. The UK, there is, they keep highlighting that the UK is different. The inflation dynamics are different. The wage dynamics are different. And I just don't see it. I think there has to be a pivot out of the UK, but it might be one of those late pivots, right? And I think that's oftentimes worse for a currency, right? Like sometimes we're going to get to a point where cutting rates is going to be good for a currency because they're
Yeah.
so late to the game that the growth side is so threatened by high rates.
Right.
And I think the UK might be falling into that trap. And so, if they stay more hawkish, I don't think it's going to help the currency, and I don't see them cutting anytime soon. But so I would watch that, and I'd be pretty cautious on the pound.
Adam, you bring up a great point. I think traders need to understand this, especially if you're trying to understand how to build a macro thesis around the markets. You said something that I think is very important that took me a lot of years to learn when I first jumped in the currency market in the early 2000s, is that rate cuts, if early, could be very supportive for an economy and good for a currency. Rate cuts too late could end up really hurting a currency, and it can end up, I guess, really, signaling some weakness for a currency. So I think that's good if that you bring that up, because I think a lot of people miss that point as currency traders.
So now you're really trading on the wisdom of central bankers, right? And who do you want to bet on that's out
Yeah.
there? So it's not a great field, but some are better than others.
Yeah, well, Adam, I really, really appreciate you being here. I want to ask, what's the best way for people to follow what you do?
Great. Well, thanks, Blake. ForexLive.com. We just write about Canadian PPP just before our PPI, right before I came on. So we cover economic data kind of as it's released and write about what it means for markets in kind of real time and try to just sort through headlines as they come or market moves. Sometimes you see those moves on your chart and you want to know why they happened, and we aim to try to interpret that, and oftentimes telling you there is no news is valuable for a trader as well, because then it's flows or fixing or whatever else it is. So ForexLive.com, and we're there whenever the market's open.
And I have to say, guys, you make sure you follow Adam. I've been a big fan of his for years, especially when he took it over from Jamie way back in the day. So Adam, you're doing a great job over there at Forex Live. Like I said, I'm gonna reach out to you personally, bring you on a Trader Summit, and get you involved there as well. How's that sound?
That sounds great, Blake. Well, right back at you. I mean, the world certainly needs more macro insight and trading insight. A lot of you know, a lot of the wrong people seem to get the most attention in this industry. So
Scary, right?
it
is.
we've both been at this a while, and it does not seem to get better. But
Yeah, I know. It's a scary thing. Anyway, hey Adam, thanks for coming in today. I know it's a holiday. It may not be one for you, but yeah, I know the markets are kind of slow. You'd probably better off twiddling your thumbs than being here. So I really appreciate you being here with our community. And like I said, I'm happy I got an opportunity to sit down and speak with you. I'm going to reach out to you and do a little bit more one-on-ones with you myself. Sound good?
I appreciate that, Blake. Take care. Thanks for having
me. All right,
me.
take care, Adam. And thanks, everybody. That was Adam Button from Forex Live. Make sure you check him out. Follow him on Twitter. What they do some really great work over there. And for the rest of you, if you are in the ForexAnalytix community, I will see you on the Morning Edge. I'm going to do the Morning Edge before I head out. So we're going to go ahead and build out that bias chart that we do for you every day. We'll go through all the instruments, and I'll be with all of you as I always am, one-on-one. So I'll see you there. And for the rest of you, we'll catch you tomorrow morning. Make sure you check out the Flow Show with Ryan and K-Man. And then I'll see you tomorrow morning on the Face Show. And hopefully Dale will be here, and I'm sure he will be. So you guys all have a great one. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll catch you later. Hey traders, this is Blake Morrow with ForexAnalytix. Thanks for stopping by our YouTube channel. Don't forget to like these videos, share them, and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss any of the content that we provide here for free. Thanks for stopping by. I'll see you in the next video.